Here we go.
Graham, have you finished, man? Have you finished, man? So you're at 36. I had to work a while.
Hello. Would you do me a big favor while you're standing? Would you go through that door and see if, I want to make sure that the sound system is split. That we're doing 2 different meetings tonight. Can you just go through that door and tell me if I'm coming through on the sound system on the other side where I shouldn't be? So I'm just going to recite the ABCs. Can you hear me through the sound system over there? Can you hear me at all over there? Hopefully, if you can hear me, it's very faint. We would like to only be having the sound system on this side and not on the side where you are now. So come on back and tell me if you heard me. Come on back in. Great, thank you. Hello, 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 hello. Okay, sounds great.
I saw the, I found in that, I don't know if I have, but I know that's y'all's stuff. That's precious cargo.
Some
The archives.
Some years it is, for others years we got more than enough.
Yeah. Good. Mr. Good. You don't like that story. There's some good footage. Y'all are a good group. I like y'all. Y'all are a good spirit. Right?
Yeah.
How about the writers?
Yeah, I see.
The best feedback I get from guys from my life.
everything's working right? Great.
Oh, I was down here earlier. It was all working.
Oh, well, I may have messed up some settings for you then.
No.
But I'm gonna get it fixed up now, because I realized I set everything up in that closet, and I realized you wanted to set up right here.
Well, but I just looked.
You gotta tell it that you're using the floor box instead of the closet, which I'll do now.
Where?
And I think I undid it, is what I'm telling you.
Well, but I did it on that.
Oh, no, I'm talking about the controls in the closet.
But it's on the PA.
Yeah, it is, but it's on DJ for the closet, not DJ for the floor box, and I gotta change it.
Ah. This is great because I can just skip on over to the one.
Oh, you're working that, you working that room too?
I'm not working it, but maybe, I don't know. Maybe I can. Oh, God, we're not being videotaped. And I brought a bag for everybody.
Right, let me just see if I can get this. Also, you're broadcasting to the world tonight, so if you want to tell your mom or your husband or whatever, they can tune in and watch you, they can watch you live. Yes, we're asking.
You guys can tell me that other way.
We generally have an audience, we have a potential audience of 30. We're going to see from that. Of those three, we need to be Dave Willard from San Francisco said, maybe one or two. Unless you send a link to your mom and your husband.
No, I'm not going to do that.
That's it.
It should. Where that's that one is
Change the lighting settings.
and you got sound. And I worked it all.
Yeah, and the sound is hooked into the lighting.
Oh,
I gotta get the lighting set up a little better, I think. That's not too bad. Stand up there for just a second, just so I can see how the lighting looks, to see if you're washed out or anything. It's not too bad. We could get a lot closer, but I don't have the.
yeah.
All right.
Do you want me to look at
I'm going to turn on some theatrical lights and a little bit.
it? Okay. Yeah, it looks okay.
Again, just thinking about Dave Willard who's tuning in. Are you working for some slides?
Yeah, so what I'm going to do.
So I put those on my website. What's that?
We'll see how it goes.
Good. How are you, Mary? Hap is supposed to be joining us tonight, but he warned me that he's got something big going on at work. please. Still got a big shiny spot.
I don't really care, it doesn't matter, just want to make sure people want them.
You know, I might put them more on the stage over on that side.
Where they can pick them up or
Yeah.
something, so.
Hey, Daddy, how are you?
Are these lost and found items? Are these lost and found things? Like boys left?
I thought maybe you like them.
No. These are lost and found things. Those aren't mine.
Uh-oh. If you're asking that question, it seems the answer is no. Are there any class you're over? By class? Well, we asked them to sit only at tables where they're table. Yeah, the table's 137. Gotta take care of it. Bingo, bingo, bingo. So when Mark goes to he directs to tell me, okay, then you can perform. Okay, but you got it. We have 5 groups. I've already saw that. So, Mark, so you are like 47.
Wilbur left.
Hey, new guy.
Hey, how are you?
Good.
Good to see you, Ed.
Good.
Do I still qualify as the new guy yet?
Of course. You know, it's generational. Yes.
I gotta head over to So I will be back.
Find me a date.
I can work on that, Ed. You gotta share your profile with me.
Nobody will have me.
Hey, I can do some magical work, but I'm not, not a wizard.
All right.
Gentlemen, can I have attention, please? Can I have your attention? Gentlemen, can we pause where we are and say a brief prayer before we open our buffet and get our evening started? If I can have your attention. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Heavenly Father, bless our gathering tonight. Bless the fellowship of these volunteers and all that they do for St. Lucie High and for the 1,000 boys that are in the hallways, many of them through the generosity of the alums in this room and their efforts. Bless those who prepared our food and bless our food. Bless all of our efforts and all the in the mission of St. Lucie High. And let's pause for a moment and remember those who couldn't be here tonight because of illness or any other tragedies. Remember them and keep them in our hearts. And finally, bless us, O Lord, in these thy gifts, which we are about to receive from thy bounty in Christ our Lord. Amen. In the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. The buffet is open, gentlemen. We'd like to encourage everybody to get through the buffet. Once we're all seated, we will begin our meeting.
Are you the tech guy?
No.
You look like the tech guy to make sure everything runs absolutely perfectly. I am so bad. I gotta go over there. I am so bad. I went to I give historic presentations, the Keel, the Muni. I've done documentaries, exhibits. So I'll go into a place, and the first person I find is the tech guy, and I say, "Here's my DVD. I don't want to touch it. You put this in the machine, and I say, put it in the machine, and then you run it, and then when it's finished, you take it out of the machine. Everything I touch just goes to hell. It's nuts."
Yeah, it's hard to believe. You know, computers are great to help do things quickly.
Yes,
They
yes.
break so much.
Yes. The other thing is always rehearse. Never, ever do anything without rehearsing. Because how many meetings have you seen go to pot because it just wasn't put together?
Hopefully tonight's will go all right.
Oh, it's not. No, they've done this enough to. Yep.
Hello, how are you?
Good, how are you? Mark.
I need some professional advice. I signed up for no.
Are you trying to get this SLUH now?
No.
Yeah, we'll take it.
I signed up for 2 committees. Which is the one that would have more fun? I signed up for membership and events and reunions. Which one would I have?
You know, I don't know. Because I think events and reunions.
Because it works there. Oh my God.
Probably.
Yeah, probably.
More fun. But it's hard because the membership, so in other words, it's not a bad choice.
Well, I mean, membership is probably.
Yeah. I got you. I may be able to, maybe able to. But yeah, the events.
Probably where you are.
Based on your year, so you're probably better off than
Correct. And worker bees.
Yeah. So those are the groups that are missing.
Yes. Yes.
And they're going to have 3-5 people there.
Right. Yeah, it cycles of life. What's going on in your life? Give you the time.
I love it.
I don't know.
Well, it worked out well. Just trying to get you guys work
Yeah.
for the community. So
Well, and then next door they're having a walk on, so after
Are
we're
they?
here, it's gonna run up there. Yeah, I think so.
Huh.
No.
Did say he was not constant. And did say he would not be good. Would be like that. He would seven. He was good for the project team. There's some new prices. I'm sorry. It's constant.
My son is.
Yeah, I'll contact you to see if there's something we might do there.
He's live streaming this too.
Oh, is it great? That's a
Oh,
kid.
yeah.
How do you say no?
Well done.
I believe so. We are streaming.
Hello.
I'm before you.
Good evening, everyone. Please keep enjoying your dinners, but we're going to get the meeting started, and everyone's busy and has things to do. So, welcome to the first meeting of the new Alumni Board. As many of you know, we got just changed things up a little bit this year. We're going to kind of do a different format. We'll talk about that more in a bit. But we'll probably have a little less of these long meetings and a little more intense work on the side with our subcommittees. I'm Mark Burns. I'm the President of the Alumni Board. Also here tonight is Tom Ehrman. I don't know if Tom's here. Dick Meehan. And I don't know if I don't think Cap's here yet, but he will be here later to work his group. We're the 4 officers of the Alumni Board. Are there any other alumni who first time tonight, first meeting? Please stand up, introduce yourself, tell us a little something about yourself. Anybody? Nobody?
Go first.
All right. Okay. So as you know, this summer everyone got an email and a mailing telling you we're doing a renewal of a commitment to this group. We had a lot of dead weight, people who had been in this for years, hadn't really done much besides attend a few meetings here or there, and kind of asked for people to recommit and decide what kind of group they want to work with. So we're going to focus on the 4 different things or 5 different groups with working on this Alumni Board to kind of strengthen our help to the school as a group instead of just coming and even though having the drinks is fun, we want to do a little more to help the school out. All right. So later we're going to break out, split into our groups. One of the officers and some of the staff are going to help run those groups. It won't be long, maybe 15, 20 minutes, and then we'll get back together and be done for the night. One other thing too we want to mention, one of the first things here is, this is working or not, SLUH High Day Phone-a-thon. So no matter what group you're in, we'd like everyone to be here for that. That's November 14th, so make sure that's on your calendar. It's going to be a big event. We got to get everyone here, get as many of your classmates as you can. I don't know if there are any sporting events on that night. Hopefully we'll have them playing, and we're going to get a good night going. There we go. That's what it is. There we go. Not very technological for my age. Phoning, emailing, all that good stuff. I know we talked about this before. A lot of times you can do stuff beforehand. You show up at night and fill out the slips for your classmates, even those who don't tell you right away. Maybe a little surprise in the mail later that week. So with that being said, I'd like to introduce Joe Pack. He's going to come up and talk about the alumni census, and then we'll go from there. Joe.
Thanks, Mark. Just another plug one more time, November 14th, get that on your calendar. We really expect, no matter what project team you're on and what your interest is, we really want you, there's a role for everybody. It's not just a phone-a-thon, it's a phone-a-thon, text-a-thon, email-a-thon, handwritten note-a-thon, social media-a-thon. There's something for anybody to do that night to help us reach out to all of our alums. And it's a special year, we're rolling out the Go Forth campaign for the first time in our fundraising efforts to our alumni. And so we're really looking forward to that. I'm sure we're going to hear a little more about that this evening. I wanted to talk to you about the alumni census. Those of you who have been part of phone-a-thons in the past, and in theory, since there's no newcomers tonight, that should be all of you, you know that your biggest frustration when you work a phone-a-thon is not people saying no. It's bad data. That's the frustration that we have at phone-a-thons and in our alumni outreach programs. It is one of the biggest challenges that I have in my job is trying to keep up with 12,000 alumni records and try to keep them all up to date. It's a huge task, it's daunting. By way of background, for decades, we did a lot of this data work and mining with an outside publishing company that would, every 5 to 7 years, we would publish this alumni directory through this outside company. They contacted our alumni and they asked for updates of all the information, and then while they had them on the phone, they would try to sell them a copy of the book. And that was the model. That's how they made their money. And so for no outlay of money from us, we ended up at the end of the project with a nice clean database. They would reach generally 2/3 or so of our alums and get good data on 2/3. That worked well. We started in the 80s doing that, way before I even started. And it worked well for a long time, but 2 projects ago, we started having troubles. And especially the last go round in 2013, we were really dissatisfied with the company. There were 2 issues. First is that alumni became very leery of giving their data to a third party. Even if they were comfortable giving it to SLUH, the privacy laws made it really clear that they had to disclose that they're Harris Publishing. I'm going to pick on that name. I think they've changed names since then, been bought out or bought somebody else. And alums were sometimes a little leery about giving their data. And then second, the company became increasingly aggressive in selling the book. And a number of our alumni got annoyed with the whole project. So we are no longer going to be engaging an outside publishing company in doing this book. We're going to do it ourselves with the great help of our alumni board. What we're going to do is, an alumni census that we're going to conduct in January and February. We're going to do our own outreach to all of our alums and get as many of them as possible to let us know where they are in life and where they're employed and what their phone number is and what their email address is and any number of data points that we plan to collect. We're going to send out a series of postcards and emails in which we're going to show them what we have on file. So hopefully you'll all get a postcard that says, "Dear Dick, this is what we have on file for you," and your wife's name and where you work and your phone number and so everything we have on file. Hopefully Dick's going to look at that and say, "That's not right." And we're going to give you a personalized URL to go in and update that for us. So what's your role in this as an alumni board member? Well, in early December, we're going to conduct a beta test. This is a big technological issue with all these personalized URLs and online. We're going to roll it out. We're going to use you guys as guinea pigs. So we want to roll it out to the alumni board in early December. You're going to get a postcard and an email. And we ask you to respond using the directions in your postcard and email and update your records. We're going to go through the whole process with you guys through the month of December, import all the data back into our database, make sure it's all working smoothly, work out any kinks that we have, and then in January it rolls out to the entire alumni body. So second, your role is to advocate for us. Assure your classmates that SLUH does not share information. We get asked all the time, frequently by alumni. I get 2 or 3 calls a year from alums involved in this charity, and I really want to host an event with my classmates, and can I get the labels so I can send it to my class and have them come and give this? We don't do that. When election cycles come around, we always get a couple guys who say, "My classmate's running for city council or state rep or whatever, and I want to use the list and fundraise for my class." We don't do that. We don't give out our data. And so advocate for us and assure the alums that you're in contact with that we are good stewards of their privacy and reassure them that we are going to take care of their data. We need this data. It helps us in so many ways. It helps us to create events in different cities. We need to know where people live. It helps us find mentors and student speakers to come in, people from different companies or different industries to come in and talk to our students. It helps us invite everyone to reunions, make sure that we're all included in reunions, which is so important. And yes, it helps us do our fundraising. And that's important too. So we don't want to hide behind that, but there are many other things, hide from that, but there are many other things that it's important for. So we really encourage you to advocate for us, reassure your alums that they can trust us with their data, and encourage them to take part. So be watching in December for your postcard, your e-blast, and help us work out all the kinks and get rid of all the bugs in the process before we roll it out to the whole group in January. So thank you very much.
Next, I'd like to introduce Ann Murphy. She's going to be our speaker tonight. Ann began SLUH in 2015 as the Assistant Director of Admissions and the head of the summer programs. In 2018, when Anja Schmelter retired, Ann was promoted to Director of Admissions. Ann's affiliation at SLUH actually started prior to 2015. Her son Andrew was in the class of 2016. So she was in the Mothers Club for a couple years before being hired to the staff. And she's going to come talk to us kind of in point with what we're doing tonight, and she's going to help with the committee talking about admissions so we can help the stewards out there in the community when people ask us questions about the school. And, how do you get in? Can you only Catholic? I get those questions all the time from friends and family who moved to town and are very confused by the, hierarchy of our society in St. Louis when it comes to high school. Oh, I can't go there, I'm Jewish. No, you can, and so that's will help, because Ann, I'm sure, gets all those questions too. So Ann, can you come on up?
You'll have to bear with me, we have to switch our technology here for just a second. Okay, well, good evening. Thank you all for having me here. I'm a little, I feel very honored that you guys have chosen me to be the guest speaker. Hold on for just a second. The sound. There we go. Okay, I want to shake. Okay, all right, so good evening. Let's start over. Thank you so much for having me here. Welcome to all of you alumni back to campus, graduates of, I guess, the high school, the U High, SLUH High, St. Louis U High, and SLUH. Did I miss any? I hope I didn't miss any. Thank you so much for having me here tonight. Thanks to Joe Packey and to Sean Agnell for letting me come here and talk to you about what I really think is everybody's favorite topic in this town, and that's high school admissions. And you're all curious about, and you all have had different experiences with it, so hopefully tonight you get a little bit of clarification. I'm looking out and I'm guessing, and this might be a wild guess, but I'll bet you're all thinking, I wonder where she went to high school. And so I'll just share with you that I grew up in Webster Groves. I went to Holy Redeemer Grade School. I filled out my high school choice form. Met with my principal. I took my entrance exam on a cold morning in November at Rosati Kane High School. And then I was accepted into my first choice, which was Nearings Hall High School. From there, I attended UMSL here in town. I began a career in fundraising, so I'm not afraid to ask anybody for anything. That was a good skill to have. I eventually decided I needed to make money. So I went to work for a large chemical company, and I worked in product management, marketing, and sales, and sold plastic. No, I did not watch The Graduate, but I heard there's a line in there about that. After raising a couple boys, one of whom graduated from here in 2016, I went to work at my local parish at Christ Prince of Peace for Father Chuck Barthel, and I worked in our PSR office, and I wound my way here working for Anja Schmelter, my predecessor, and I can tell you it is nothing short of an honor and privilege to be working here. I love SLUH. I was so happy that my son chose to come here and had a great experience. The faculty and staff are great, and it's so easy as an admissions director literally to just reach my hand out into the senior hallway from my office and find a great story to tell prospective families. We don't have a shortage of that, and that makes my job really super easy. When someone asks me today, what's the best thing about SLUH High School? Hands down, it's the students here. They are fabulous in everything that they do. So my purpose in speaking to you tonight is really twofold. I want to sort of bring you up to speed a little bit on the admissions process, and I want to show you a little bit about what the landscape looks like now, and how different it is from the experiences that maybe you all had when you were applying, or if you even had sons that had attended here. In order to do that, we're going to do something a little different. Does everybody have a phone? And if you do, Mr. Goldman's ready to go.
I don't know how to use it.
He doesn't know how to use it. If you have a phone, take it out, because we are going to play a game called Kahoot. If you get your phone out and you go to your browser, you'll type in kahoot.it, and I'm going to set the game up with a login for you guys. There's going to be a PIN number that's going to pop up on the screen. have to get out of this thing. Hold on, I'm gonna make this work. It's like magic. There it is. So that's the PIN number. It's gonna ask you for 727051. Is everybody in? Like, are there people that are in it? And then it's gonna, oh, there we go. We got somebody up on the board. John Panelia is up on the board. There we go. Look at this. This is great. I'm so happy people are doing this. If you don't have a phone or you're not gonna be able to figure out, that's okay. We have 5 simple questions, and the questions are all admissions related, and it's gonna test your knowledge a little bit. Now, we do this at high school nights for the young boys that come to the high school nights. We feel that it engages them in the process instead of us just standing up and talking at them. They get really excited and they're able to win prizes, which I've also brought for you guys this evening. Oh, there we go. That's changed the game when I heard the prizes. How's everybody doing? Is everybody ready to go? Show me a hand if you're not ready and you want to play. Okay, we still got somebody, one more guy out, and then I'm going to start it. Are you ready? No. Wow, this is really going to be a match. I love it. We also tell the boys at high school nights that, you know, we're competitive at SLUH High, so we want to make sure that we encourage that a little bit. Everybody ready? Anybody not ready that wants to be? Okay, here we go. I'm going to start this game. We do have a Kahoot club at SLUH, by the way, and I'll tell you about that in a little bit. Here's your first question. How many total 8th grade boys are currently students at St. Louis Archdiocese parochial schools? And I'll read them. 3450, 1252, 1818, or 798? Now, I'm giving you 30 seconds to answer. It might be too long, but I wanted to make sure you had time to think about it. Okay, so 15 of you got that right. We have 1,252 boys that are currently 8th graders that attend parochial grade schools in the St. Louis Archdiocese. I'm going to escape out of this, and I'm going to take you to our slides. Let me see if I can make this happen. Oh, that's not it. Hold up. Go back. Okay. There we go. Bear with me on this technology. I can do it. I need to make it work. So this slide will tell the story a little bit about the demographics in St. Louis right now. And again, it might be a little hard to see. But the class we're admitting now is the class of 2024. And as you can see, since 1990, the demographics of just male live births in St. Louis City and County has just gone down and down and down and down. So at this point, that's where we're at with about, what does that say? 9,000 and above right there. If you look at the Archdiocese numbers, this is what it looks like. In 2010, we had almost 1,800 boys. Coming up to this next class, we'll have about 1,252. The 1071 that you see is the current 6th grade. So in the next 2 years, we're gonna dip another couple hundred boys in the St. Louis Archdiocese. So that is really the reality. And again, it's you know, nobody ever believes me. It's kind of funny because we have such a stronghold here and such a strong tradition. But the reality is that people aren't having kids. They're not having boys. And that correlates with the number of students that are at the Archdiocese schools. Any surprises? Probably not. Okay, let's go on to the next question. Are you guys ready? What national percentile rank puts a student in the top quartile in the country on a standardized test? Oh, I gotta switch it. Sorry. I gotta switch my stuff. There we go. What national percentile rank puts a student in the top quartile in the country on a standardized test? All right, very good. You guys, some of you guys got that right. So 77% and above is what we look for when we're looking at a student's academic profile. I think the myth of SLUH right now is, well, if you want your kid to go there, he's got to be in the 90s to get in. No, 77% and above is what we're looking for, and that has not changed. That has always been the case. But the myth continues that only those kids that can achieve the high 90s are going to come here, and that's just not true. So I want to make sure that you guys know that. Let me escape out of here again. This is our current GPA, and again, I'm only dusting the surface here tonight with information because we just don't have a lot of time. But right now, this is our current, admitted students GPA average. So for the last 5 to 6 years, it's pretty much remained the same between, a 3.7 and a 3.8 is about where they average out. And that's another thing that really has not changed a lot in the last few years. Let's go back to the game. Next question. What is the top reason that a student does not matriculate to SLUH? Financial, fit, doesn't want to work that hard, worried about getting jobs. Okay, actually the top reason is fit. So when we survey students that don't come, those students tell us that they just feel that it wasn't a fit. There may have been some academic reasons there that they just are not feeling it here. Financial is of course the next reason. So those two kind of sometimes they'll go hand in hand, or sometimes a family won't disclose completely why they're not deciding to come, but they do. That's the reason that they give us. All right, next question. I think this is maybe one of the last. SLUH must be an applicant's first choice school on the St. Louis Archdiocese high school application. True or false? SLUH must be an applicant's first choice. Okay, well, I'm going to go actually and tell you that it's false, but it's true. How many of you guys remember this form right here? Yeah, you guys all filled this out. This was your choice form. So if you're a student who's in a St. Louis Archdiocese school, you get that form. You get that form now online, and you fill that out and you put down where your first choice school is. I will tell you that the deadline is November 15th, but if a student calls me on November 16th and says they changed their mind, I'm okay with that. If they call me in December or January or March or April or May and say they changed their mind, I'm okay with that. So the form is important for an archdiocese school, and they follow that guideline for the St. Louis Archdiocese. However, we get a lot of students from public schools and private schools that may not know that process or may not be familiar with that. And so we are okay if they come and it's later on in the game. All right, let's do the last question. How many total applications were submitted to the class of 2023 last year? I've got 567, 241, 330, or 465. Okay, 330, that's the answer. We received 330 total applications last year. Before I go on with getting more information on that, I'm gonna just go and look at the winners. Okay, Jeff. Jeff is the winner. We got 4 out of 5 questions. Actually, everybody's tied. Jeff, come on up. We got a prize. And then Nick and TH, I'll have a prize for you guys too, so come on. Love it.
Flag.
Okay, so, just to share with you a little bit about what we just, the question we just had, the class of 2023. So we had 330 applications last year. 277 of those were at committee in January. And then we admitted 253. We had 53 late applications, meaning from literally November, whatever that date was, all the way up through July, we had applications. And we were able to entertain those applications and admit some of those students. 29 of our 330 withdrew from the process before they ever got to committee. And 39 declined their admission. 6 of those were what we called conditional admits, meaning they were, they had it, but they needed to bring a little bit more throughout the rest of the semester in order for us to consider them to be here. This kind of brings us to a new place in the world of admissions in St. Louis, doesn't it? Because now we're not seeing the bulk of the applicants at that November deadline. We're seeing applicants constantly all the way through, and I'm able to take those applicants all the way through. I will tell you the 39 that declined admission, again, it's a lot of things. It's financial, it's fit. There's a lot of different reasons that kids don't come here. In my office, it's a real fine line and a real balance of, if they tell me they're not coming, we try to figure out what's going on as best we can. Is it financial? Did we not answer some questions? Do they need to come back to do a shadow or something to bring them? But again, we get to a point where I don't want to seem like we're begging kids to come here either. So it's a really, really fine line that we walk and a lot of very tough conversations that we have. But this really is the reality of kind of where we're at. I also want to kind of talk to you a little bit about, now we're getting to the class of 2024. We have a lot of opportunities to do things kind of differently and a lot of challenges that I just want to share with you really fast. Number one, we've got to wade into the digital marketing age, because now these families are not getting information in a brochure or in a magazine. They're going right to their device. And in the words I saw recently from Salesforce, they want to be engaged in the way that they are with Amazon or Netflix. That's how they roll. That's where they get their information. And we have to be more responsive. So we're working on social media campaigns with the students. We have a new formed group that is being led by a faculty moderator and by our director of communications, working with the boys to actually create the content. Because it's the boys' stories that are really what people want to hear about. They want to hear about facts and figures and outcomes, and we still provide all that, but this is really important. More emails and targeted emails to families that are prospective students, and we've upgraded our webpage this year. This is kind of where you guys come in, proactively utilizing you guys to kind of spread the word. There's something that I call the alumni effect. This example here is the Bodendistel and Hempstead effect. Paul Bodendistel is a teacher here. His son's a freshman. He brought with him a lot of kids from his school. That's the Bodendistel effect. Gerard Hempstead's son brought a bunch of kids from Incarnate Word Academy, or Incarnate Word School. We hadn't gotten kids from that school in a long time. So we had the Hempstead effect. So then how can we utilize you guys, especially the ones that have kids, to spread that word around about SLUH? And we'll talk about that in our small group. We are crafting a new visit experience this year. Anja Schmelzer, actually, when she started in 2010, no one could even come into this building to visit on a school day. And so she changed that and brought about Inside SLUH Visit. We're actually taking it to another level and letting kids come in and shadow. We've never done that before. We start on Monday. Not gonna lie, I'm kind of nervous about it, but I think all in all, it'll be a positive experience for the boys and the families. And it'll also be a really good leadership opportunity for our freshmen, because they're gonna be taking the boys around and being their hosts for the morning and for lunch. And just building more of a targeted approach so that, you're, finding those kids that are interested in football and letting them talk with football players, or finding those robotics kids and making sure that we get, families and kids that can talk to them about those programs and get them excited. More about inspiring families and engaging them than just sort of talking at them about facts and figures. I do want to kind of roll back through this. I'm sorry, Alan, I know I'm taking your time. I do want to roll back through this really quick, though. In looking at admissions this year, as I was planning out the year, I wanted to go back a little bit, and you guys will appreciate this. Father Houlihan, in the 70s, when he was the principal, he was also the admissions guy. And I talked to him about that, and he said, every Monday through Thursday, I was out recruiting. And that's what I'm doing now. I'm going out and recruiting. I'm going out and talking to the principals at the schools and making sure they know what's new at SLUH. So this isn't really that much different. God love Mary Mahalski. She was the first real admissions director, and she told me the applications just rolled in. And I'm like, oh man, I would love to have that problem. But it was hard because she had to cut and she had to weed out. Craig Hannick, when I asked him about it, he described it as the easiest, hardest job. And I would also concur with that. It is really easy to talk about our school, really easy to engage families, but it's hard because there's a lot of challenges in front of us. And so for him, he remembers those 20 or so applicants that decided not to come. And he and Father Paul worked out a deal where they would admit more kids so that fallout would create the number that they wanted. Anja Schmelzer was, kind of a pioneer in creating a lot of great marketing for us and branding, and she did a great job. One of the quotes that she used to use, which I still do, is, we're not the office of denial. We're not here to deny anybody. That's not what I want to do. I want to admit kids. That's important when families hear that. This is our team today, just so you know. Adam Cruz is still instrumental in helping us out with just really getting the kids energized and excited through all of the events that we do. He does a lot of interviews. He works upward bound, and so he's really a great asset to our team. Jennifer Thomas replaced me as our admissions counselor, and she works with all the families, making sure that their visit experience is a good one. And then Craig continues to work in financial aid. So that's just it in a nutshell. You guys did great at Kahoot. I hope I gave you little just nuggets of information. I will be here all night, so please, if you have any questions, I don't know if you want to do Q&A or want to wait, but maybe it would be best to kind of wait. Do you want to wait, Alan? Okay, he raised his hand first, so what's your name?
Tim Graham.
Tim,
585.
okay.
I'm just curious, as the numbers in the UNSTAS and schools are declining, what percentage of the kids are coming from public schools?
So that's a good question. Back in probably about 10 years ago, it was probably about a 70-30 split. So we'd have 70% coming from Catholic and 30 public. It's starting to come really even right now at about 50% each. And that's a challenge for us because we're so used to those Catholic feeder schools. So we're reaching out as much as we can to public schools. We actually today, we have a curriculum seminar that we invite the principals to that Mr. Kurt is helping us with. Today we have our first public school principal coming on campus to do a curriculum seminar and kind of understand where we're at. I'm really excited about that because there are a lot of public schools that have kids who can really benefit from our financial aid and have a good experience here. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay.
If a boy fills out the form and says, I'd like to go to St. LUH High first,
Yeah.
does St. LUH High at some point talk to the parents and say, this kid is a fit academically or it's not a fit academically?
Yeah, and I would say too that, in this day and age, I mean, last year, I think we denied only about 12 students. Because in this day and age, they're all doing their homework, they're all shopping, they all get on top of that ahead of the game before they fill the form out, and so they really know. I do provide academic consultations so that they can come in and sort of share with me what their student looks like, and we can tell them. And, we tell some families, look, this could go either way. I do not have a crystal ball. I really wish I did, but I don't have one, so.
Another question.
Uh-huh.
I'm not sure if the younger guys here remember, but the older guys will remember a test called the Iowa test.
Yeah.
What general scores are you looking for on the Iowa test?
77% and above. Yep, I know, 77 sounds horrible, it's like a C, it's bad, but it puts you in the top quartile in the country. So it's actually really good. Yes,
Your public school, archdiocese school breakdown 50-50.
it's getting there, yeah.
What is your, in fact, Catholic, not Catholic breakdown?
That's more like 80-20.
So you got 80%.
Can you repeat the question?
He wants to know the breakdown of religion, so it's more like 80-20 for Catholic versus non-Catholic.
And of that 20%, how many of them become Catholic? I'm kidding.
Oh, I don't think maybe very many. He wants to know how many become Catholic. We did have actually a Chinese student who came from China who transferred here, and he did convert. So there are a couple kids, but I don't think there's very many.
Yeah, that could be a long process. And,
Yeah.
And it really depends a lot of times on whether that boy is seeking out an active process. Well, in high school, they often will do so in college.
Not saying it's your job to do this.
No. And I do
It
make.
does happen, just it's not something that's.
And I will tell you, when a non-Catholic family comes, we talk about their faith in the interview, and we talk about what their faith means to them. And we also make sure they understand that they are not exempt from what we do here as a Catholic Jesuit institution. So they have to participate in service and retreat and mass and prayer service. And they have to take theology all 4 years. So they do understand that.
Thank you.
So
Sorry,
it sounds
Emma.
like there's an opportunity to maybe, I don't want to say rebrand, but maybe just like confirm that our image is one of accepting of all. And so is there an opportunity for us as an alumni? I know I'm in a parish here locally to actually, do something. Is there a call to action from the alumni committee to do something at the parish level to maybe help that?
Yeah, I think that we're going to talk a little bit about that tonight in the admissions section, and I have to tell you, it's one of those things I think we need to kind of brainstorm. I think it's hard when you're not really entrenched in what's going on to really talk intelligently about it for families, but I think there's a lot of things that alums can do to be more boots on the ground for us in admissions to further our application number. Yeah. I don't want to take too much more time, so.
Yeah, we want to maybe limit one
Yeah.
or two more questions.
How about one or two more questions? You had your hand up, sir. Yeah.
I'm just curious, how does the school compare to other schools when it comes to national test scores?
Repeat the question.
He wants to know about our comparison to other schools with national test scores. I have to tell you, I don't have any concrete data of that.
I do.
But maybe Mr. Carruthers does. Yeah.
So to give you a sense, the average ACT score approximately right now is within the JSN, which is the Jesuit Schools Network, so comparing like to like. Other Jesuit schools, college preparatory, not the Crystal Ray model, is around 27, 27.5. That's the average probably across the country. We are in the top 5 grouping within the JSN across North America. That includes Canada, the United States, Puerto Rico, and the schools that are involved in ACT testing. Our AP scores, we have about 900 AP tests per year, and we are in the top quartile nationally of our AP score performance, with most of our kids achieving a 4 or 5, with some achieving a 3. We are really, even within the JSN, one of the top academic performing schools within the JSN. So that's like to like.
In this area?
No, nationally and internationally across.
So we do better than all
Well, if you want to talk locally, the only schools that gets near to us with an academic profile footprint from a data standpoint would be John Burroughs and Pryor, which are very different schools than us. But it's not a like-for-like comparison, right? You have a priority sample size that is 1/3 of our sample size.
Repeat the CBC and chapter.
I don't know if it's competition, and certainly those other charisms have different models. CBC, the LaSalle Christian Brothers do a great job with the model they employ. Their model is multiple track education, right? That's not who we are. So they do a great job for what they do, but it's not who we are. They don't really report their ACC, so I can't give you that exact comparison.
Well, with nothing else, Al, do you want to go up?
Sure.
Give us a school update. Thank you, Ian.
So I want to give you a sense of what it's like to be, because my speech is supposed to be the school update, and I think that, you often get all of the school update, but I want to give you a school update of what it's like to hang out with St. Louis University High School students today. So at 4 o'clock, 4:30 today, I had 3 students in my office area. I was trying to get work done, I really actually was. And the conversations raised, and I would often kind of stick my head up. If you don't know me, I was a history teacher, which can be dangerous. So the conversations range from the history of the kilt and its origins to whether someone who is agnostic or atheist understands whether there is a flaw in humanity when there is no faith. Then we talked about whether Luther was in fact a truly Christian individual trying to good things that was then caught up in a movement not of his own making, and the impact that his imprisonment within the palaces of the German princes. And then we moved on to a conversation that kind of wrapped things up on whether utility kilts, it brings it full circle, would be a better dress wear for plumbers and electricians. So we covered a range of topics within about an hour, and that is pretty much what it's like to be at St. Louis University High School. So not by topic, but just by the narrative that may sound, I'm sure some of you can relate. It was a highly intelligent conversation that was at some times animated, which was interesting. And it was actually a lot of fun. So that's what it's like to hang out with the St. Louis University High School student in 2019 here. We've got great kids. We've got great boys. They like to talk. They like to kind of explore ideas. They like to ask questions. They like to answer questions. And it is really a pleasure to be here every day. Now, the tragedy of my job is, as a former coach, teacher, and drama director, or producer, I don't get to spend any time with the kids hardly, unless they can come up to my office and do what would happen today, but it doesn't happen enough. But it really is a very special place to be. So I thought you'd find that an interesting kind of flow of conversation. I did not make any of that up, believe me. That was all completely what happened today. So just a couple things we kind of talked about AP scores and tests in that most recent question, but right now, spiritual formation is really alive and well here. We are very, very blessed that was part of the Imagining 18 process, which so many of you participated in. And we have the Madonna della Strada Retreat House right now is under renovation right now, so it can really carry our retreats. In the meantime, our folks have revamped and reworked our sophomore retreat. They will be looking at our freshman retreat and our junior retreat process. And Kairos, of course, is outstanding. And so our retreat program is really, I think, being revitalized right now, and will be even more revitalized when we have this tremendous opportunity to do more retreats with lots of smaller groups and larger groups in our own retreat house, where we don't have to worry about anybody else's calendar. And that's very, very exciting. The province contacted me today to ask if they could use the retreat house. So I'm also hopeful that there are other people out there. St. Louis University has also talked to me about possibly using it, as well as some of the other Catholic schools in town. So I'm very hopeful that this facility will be used and beneficial for not only us, but also some of our other Catholic partners within the city. Service is a big part of who we are. It always has been, I think. And it's very organized. Upcoming, for example, we have the Fathers Club has a service morning with dads and their sons
at the Greenwood Cemetery, which is a historically African-American cemetery, which is kind of going through a revitalization and trying to uncover some of those historical headstones, etc. So that's coming up. That's just one example of what types of things we do. And we also often we get requests to do service around the state. Had one of those this morning, and we try to fulfill as many as possible. And then we have also our Christian service program, where we have our annual service partners, where our boys go out for service throughout the year. Accessibility. So we are and committed to need homes. You hear that often. We need 100% of demonstrated need. Now, that has been true for tuition, and we certainly have tried to make sure it's true for other needs. But as you know, many of you who were, like myself, a work grant or boy on scholarship, need-based scholarship, it is expensive to get to and to have dress code and to have all the other things that support you when you're here. Participating at St. Louis University High School in Russian trips, in China exchanges, in band concerts, in sporting events and sports, in prom, and just dress code is costly. And we've only recently tried to figure out how to best do that in a way that's most dignified. So we have everything from the St. Francis Scholars Fund, which is a combination of a few funds that have come together that we're trying to endow. We also have Father Kellett's Closet, which recently opened up, and the alumni moms and my wife Lucia and counseling department have worked to put together, which is there. It's a free thrift store in the old bookstore off the rec room, which really looks like a Brooks Brothers. And families can come in, and then an exterior entrance, they can come in from Catholic middle schools, from Loyal Academy, our own students. We've had a lot of customers already. They come in and they take the objects, they can try them on. There's a change room, there's ties, there's suit jackets, there's dress pants, there's dress shoes. And we hope to get into things like TI-84 calculators, but we have book bags and we have water bottles and all those extras. So we're trying to meet the need not only of tuition, but of being a highly dignified experience for all kids and families while here. Because that gap and that divide is not often easy to navigate when you're 14 or 15 years old. We do all this because of your support, which was over $6 million last year. You know, we, through our direct and indirect aid, we really have to work hard in the advancement office to do that. And fortunately, you all believe in what we do, and we are very successful at that. And it really does affect real boys every day walking these hallways. And I want to keep reminding you of that fact. It doesn't go into some mythical, budget and just be used for operating. It is used for making sure that we have the ability to pay for those kids here every day. So we are continuing to talk about and continue launching and relaunching the Go Forth campaign, which is the Go Forth Bicentennial campaign, which was in its silent phase, which a lot of you participated in its planning and have participated actively in it already. But really, there still seems to be a gap out there. I know that at reunion weekend, this past weekend, there were guys who were saying, what is this Go Forth campaign? I haven't heard enough about it. And our office and the advancement team and Sean Annual and others, we continue to try to communicate that, but you really are some of our best interactive spokespersons for this. Here is the reality. Scholarship and endowment is a huge priority here. This is a beautiful space, but most of the classes are in a 100-year-old building as of 2022 that hasn't really been touched that much. So how do we renovate that building so it lasts another 100 years? That building, the backer buildings, if you will, they need our help to be around for another 100 years. It's not about going and building a Taj Mahal. It's about excellence without excess. It's about making sure we can support what we're trying to do here. We turned that basement room, the old senior smoker, into an innovation lab. And it's a spectacular, usable space for existing programming. It's not revolutionary. Some glass, some power outlets, and some good design work, and we have a very functional space that serves 75% of our school population. That's what we're talking about doing with the rest of the old building.
We're not building anything new. We're simply taking what we have and bringing it up to support the educational standards that you would want for your kids and your sons if they're here or when they're here. So we're at 57 million so far. Our goal is 70 million. We need to get there. They always say the last, 20% is the toughest 20%, and we'll have to work really hard and get a lot of smaller gifts. But maybe there's also some bigger gifts out there that people haven't decided upon yet. Help us find them. It may not be you, but it may be someone you do know that may need a little bit of push. Say, hey, they are really doing good things over there. Yes, it is really good school. It is a great academic school. Look what they're doing. So to date, we've increased financial aid, greatly expanded counseling. We've created an innovation lab. As I said, we revamped all but one of the science labs, which we've done incredibly well, but also we've done it very cost effectively. That looks great. We've added Arabic as an additional language. We now have the Madonna dell'Estrada Retreat Center, which is undergoing renovation, should be ready and active by March or so. And we have also done a ton of curriculum work, including a lot of work with our teachers on both setting course placemats, but also developing more sense of project-based learning, which is really critically important. And that's one of the reasons why the iLab is so critical. The next steps are the creation of the Dill Center for Academic Success, which is the old cafeteria, where the food flew, right? And the sloppy joes were served. We're going to turn that into counseling, college counseling, administration center, so the kids have a close central location to go and get their needs fulfilled. We support learning much more actively than we used to. We support learning needs much more actively. There are very high IQ boys walking around this building, but they have some needs when it comes to things like dysgraphia or dyslexia, etc. How do we support them better? Well, we do it in spaces like that we're creating, because from an IQ standpoint and performance standpoint, they're very high performers. They simply need things like a little bit of extra testing time. So this is a very exciting development. It will be central, core to the building. You'll be able to walk in here, and there you will be at the Dill Center. We hope to start that in the spring, and everything that we're doing, we're not wanting to borrow money. We're doing it cash flow permitting. So cash flow, those of you who run businesses understand exactly what I mean. Cash flow for us needs to be cash designated because of donor intent to those projects or unrestricted. So right now, we're really looking, in order to move these projects forward, we're looking for either unrestricted or directed to the projects as we see them in the order we see them, because we have a bit of a domino effect going on because of space. So we have to do things in a certain order. The Dill Center is the first, so we can move administrative and counseling office up the center, so then we can look to chapel, the pastoral, and the World Learning Center, which is research, language labs, silent workspace, all those types of things that will be happening in what was the old auditorium, which will be opened back up 2 stories and bring that natural light back into the building as this building was originally designed. So, or at least that building, not the later built gym. So that's kind of where we are. One last thing would be the go forth will focus, have a focus at St. Louis U High Day Phonathon that we want you all to be part of November 14th. So please put that into your calendar. The renovation of the chapel is very exciting, and hopefully you can take a look at that over there. And we have working groups working at the final design of all things. These are really conceptual designs, except for the innovation lab, which really that's what it looks like. But the other ones are conceptual, and we still have working groups that are working on finalizing the exact aesthetic plan. But we hope to take advantage of this beautiful building's history and the design already is built into it. Special invitation to you all to First Friday Masses. How many were able to make it to our first Friday Mass? Thank you, Paul. Thank you. It was a wonderful time. We had about 150 to 200 people there. We have really kicked open the door to the invitation. First Friday Masses should be about St. Louis University High School, 7 a.m. on First Fridays. The next one's October 4th. We'd like to see every alum, every mom, all right, every former teacher who's perhaps retired, current parents, current students, coaches. We want to pack that to keep the liturgy at the center of what we do. And then afterwards, let's get together for a little colloquy, eat some donuts, drink some coffee, and have time for the kids to do that with us, because previously on First Friday, they didn't have time to actually come after Mass. Hey, let's interact with the boys
and kind of just remember, hey, we're a Catholic institution, and the Mass, the liturgy, and the homily and the scriptures are at the center of what we do. So next one's coming up October 4th, 7 a.m. Bring a classmate, bring your wife, bring your children. We just want you there. We're going to have music. We have a little bit more time, so there's a little bit deeper homily if possible. It's a really, really great time to be with us and spend time with us and reconnect. So, get a group of your classmates together. And it's only 5 times a year or so because of various holidays. Make our first Friday Mass schedule part of your life, please. It's a powerful example to see you guys here. It was a powerful example to see all of the guys at the reunions this weekend. And I want to thank you for that. And it's very powerful for our student body to see you in our building and come and to still care about where you went to high school. I know that's a big question still in St. Louis, but it's inspiring to see you here. So thank you very much and have a great rest of your evening. Thank you.
Before Al leaves, we want to give him a round of applause also because he was recently sworn in as a U.S. citizen. And those who don't know, went out, was it last week?
3 weeks ago.
3 weeks ago, so recently. And now we'll try to take all the U's out of the words like color and stop saying A's much around here. But
I never said it. My OU, you're my OU.
I heard you said donut just before. So, congratulations.
I don't have to worry about ice anymore, so I'm very happy with that.
All right, so now we're going to break into our project groups. Everyone should hopefully remember what they signed up for. If not, there's a sheet on your table that has your name on it and the group you signed up for. All right, so take a second and look at that if you don't remember. I'm going to, in the meantime, while you're doing that, I'm going to break everybody down. Hal, if you'd come up to this table in the top corner here, and would that be the southwest corner? Dick, can you go all the way to the table on the way back where it says 47 by the bar? Yeah, well, I'm going to tell everybody else to get you to your tables first. John's going to be in the back there at the table where the sign-ins were, John Panilla. Tom, why don't you come on up here and take a table right behind where I was sitting, behind Ann Murphy. And then Joe and I will be over here at the table back there, all right? So, Cap has the service and spirituality team, so you're up here in this corner by half Burke. Dick Meehan has the membership project team. You'll be in the back corner by the bar. John Panilla is doing the phone steering committee. All right, so right where John Panilla is there, the back table by the sign table. And then where Tom and Ann are is the admissions project team. And whoever else is on the reunion events team will be with Joe and I at that table right over there. We'll be only do this for about 20 minutes, and then we'll come back together and close out for the night.
I'll find out.
First of all, all who's here on Friday. Which is more than double right now. If you reverse, you used to have mass. Appreciate the feedback. Yeah, I appreciate the feedback. After the 5, 9, 7, 10, 9 I would your feedback on spaces on the one. I would ask, send out an evaluation survey to those who attended the meeting. And this is a survey. And take a look. I would ask you for the feedback on the survey. Feedback. So how would you go on this survey? Second one, this is the survey of those who did not attend the meeting. Why were you there? And you're not going to get a survey. And most of you who wasn't here, just answer questions of what you asked. Very good. General, wide open to this comments. That's the survey that happened. And what we're trying to do is make it more quantifiable. We want that reform tells us product. But we also much want to have quantifiable data, track years, see what one of the things you'll notice on that form, when we're asking you were you satisfied, not satisfied, it's an even number. There are 4 choices, not 5. Side of the so good, bad, really good. That's very potential. See, we're looking to yeah. Yeah, well, you're saying it comes out something. I appreciate that, Bob, because I actually that sounds really good. So, well, thank you for all your input. many events that you volunteers? Volunteers are 65 and 70 years of life. That's all 83 or 80 years old. I think a couple of helpers had to be helping. Thing for working guys, I said, that's right. I am from the start from SLUH. So, I'm able to older gentleman, Tom Blair, it's a classic 54, so he's here tonight. Off is 53, old. So these distinguished gentlemen are here to help us. I'll send out an email to this group. Now, we do this on the day when there are no classes, especially all family away, and we take up the hour, Wisconsin here, so we do all the best part. So, we also have a 59, or 69, so it's interesting. I'm going to burn all fluff. So all you need over inside now. That's Friday, 11. Which one I will do? One of the questions I had, 75 million, class of 44 this year. Not itself, my father had a name this year, but we never got a 75 million. Well, 18 years ago, we never got a 70 million. So the guys finally said, well, I would have 70 or 80 is the new 60. So maybe 90 is the new 70. So we're looking to maybe 75 million. That's how we buy it. Roll that around. Well, the 30 or 40 class, people are kind of able to go anywhere. Yeah, 4 or 5 classes. So, and then another question I was trying to keep your ears open for surveys, 5 to 10 years, young guys, has been since, Thanksgiving. So that's some of what one of the Friday Thanksgiving. Surveying most of these, they were always doing this. So anything else is one teaching. So teachers are running in on Friday Thanksgiving. So in order to do these classes, you need that means you should put on the same weekend as a ball tournament. So you're there, attendance at conference. Did that, attendance at so what do they do? Keep plugging in June 1 that's a tradition they do every 4 years. Or does it go in town and say, so that's where we're at.
Video.
Well, back here now, Jesus said.
No, St. Paul was, but we were told some us, class, extended invitation. Now, we didn't do that for a 5-year, we did it for a 10-year. And we extended a lot of invitations, a lot of speakers, those are the.
That's an important point. Because I asked these guys to come back and say, hearing from you guys.
Yeah, so,
That carries a lot more weight.
well, and
I asked the same teachers to come back.
I can remember being here for my 20th, walking through the center court here on the first floor, Joe Schultz was downstairs. Don't look at me. Shit, it's 20 years old, right? No, like, the app breaks up. But, you know, so, yeah, we didn't invite every teacher that we had, but we invited, just not all, you know, but it came from the class, not from the school. And personally, I still think having a 5-year, right for Christmas, during that Christmas break, was really good.
Sports, general milestones. We don't have a rifle team. Celebrating 75th year. Sometimes January 3rd. Just now, somebody's saying, we asked for some help on that. Coming in at volleyball, so ice hockey.
Please.
And then my final thing is a big push. Saturday, April 4th, catch prom. Board guys and still leaders. And so, especially start our high table. Young guys, strong guys, our systems. They have to carry kids to the line. Carry the old guys.
If I'm carrying a case of wine, it's not going to clock.
Saturday, April 4th. We're hoping our we have all the boys. That was a special show up on Sunday. Yeah, 6 bars, 7 bars, 4 stocks, all throughout this area. So on Sunday morning, like those 6 bars, we get out these all blues for bars as well. Well, you should probably learn to fly. All kind of hard, but we wouldn't, I would just load all that stuff up. Your case over here. I have 20 boards. I was told 2 years ago, that's not a good idea. Having 15-year-old boys carrying boxes.
Oh, yeah,
No longer an option. So we need you guys to go ahead and go do the strong guy. Really good. Mark, you come in, oh, that's what you want. I'll
Special. It was awesome. We had the 75th anniversary soccer. I was proud. It was great. I don't know how the soccer was left up. Watching it's awesome. Before that kind of stuff. Well, I was off work. Yeah. That's cool. Sports is okay. Getting together with teammates like that. So that was a great thing. That kind of thing was great.
Do I have any questions? I do a volunteer.
You'll send out an email here with all the dates. Give everybody a heads up. Let's do 2 more minutes and then come on back to the tables and we'll close up the meeting.
I think you might have. Oh, Kessler stopped by. Yeah, he still does. So, yeah, I think maybe move Saturday to Friday. Saturday's a little bit. Yeah, I agree. June. No one's going to town. A lot of 5 years.
Yeah, what's tonight? That's the New Year's Eve. That's, when you're up at, you get a 5 in the morning?
They're closing up on hands, you got stuff for them.
2 more slides.
Yeah, 2 for the update.
For the updates of upcoming events.
Sounds good.
Are you streaming this?
We are. We have a couple of Dave Willard.
Sure.
Classic.
He was in my son's class, so
One. So he's out in San Francisco, but he wants to be on the Alumni board. So he's streaming. Also a guy in Minneapolis. We have 3 guys who are out of town on the Alumni board. Any given meeting, we'll usually have one of them that tune in. And sure enough, it says one is watching. So.
yeah, that's cool. That's very neat. So you do it here, put it into here, and then what's the technology to stream? Just throw it out on what?
YouTube.
YouTube. Okay, cool.
All right, everyone, let's make it back to the front. All right.
If you want to talk now about that, just, I don't know what, I'm not involved in the conversation at all.
One more time, just get everyone's attention here. We'll close this up. If you stay there where you are, if you can see the screens, we'll be good to go. Just a little closing. Thank everyone for coming tonight. We have some upcoming events to let everybody know about. As Al mentioned earlier, we have the first Friday Mass on October 4th. That's next on the 4th at 7 a.m. in the SLUH Chapel. Open to everyone, family, and friends. 50-year reunion of class of 69 is on Friday, October 11th. If you want to be able to help with that, or if you're a member of that class, be there. SLUH Night, missions events for prospective students and their families is Thursday evening, October 17th. Spread the word to any families you know that have children of that age. We also have the reunion lunch for the class of 54 and 49. Volunteers are needed. We just talked about our reunion meeting, but anyone else wants to help, especially just to help the gentlemen get into the building and things like that. They're having a lunch here at school on that day on Friday, October 19th. The open house here at SLUH High on Sunday, November 3rd. We need some volunteers to help that day, logistics and whatnot. And then, of course, once again, the SLUH High Phone-a-thon and online giving, Thursday, November 14th. We need everyone here. Get your classmates here, classmates that are even in this group, bring them in and help everybody out. Also, before you leave, Ann has generously got a gift for everybody up here at the front. It's a SLUH bag with a little bit of information in it for you, everyone to take. So come on up and grab one before you leave, and you take that home with you. And as we mentioned before, and maybe we'll clarify, we're not going to have many more of these meetings like we used to 4 times a year. So this might be the last time we meet as a large group until May. So make sure you meet with your groups or communicate with them through online or however you want to work that out and get those projects moving so we can get help the school out in that way. And we won't have as many of these meetings to take up our time and we can use that more wisely. All right, thank you everyone. Bar's still open. Enjoy your drink and have a good night.
Oh. Well, for this, yeah, for the class of 69, so other people were 140 seats. Yeah, that doesn't. Yeah.
Can I interrupt you? Where are you guys going for your Saturday night? Right? Well, we're just starting.
Yeah. Well, do you have anybody in class?
I don't know.
We had John.
I don't know.
Yeah. They just go and have the maintenance floor. Then you sign up.
Good school. We're just starting. We're just in our first meeting.
Well, you can
Started right there.
Yeah.
Number one priority.
well get it in the next month or two.
Yeah. Otherwise,
Yeah.
we're going to be scrambled.
With all the good places.
But here we go. That's That's just talking to people.
Somebody else was.
Okay.
I'll remember that. I'll see this.
That helps. Well, the outlines.
didn't have to be so, I mean, you could have waited. That was,
You are